see how we go about that. I'm going to talk about Terry now and his wife Katja. Start on the first page. 24th of February 1949. Terry, like, as I said before, like all of us, like Simpson, like myself, like many others, started his career in Liverpool when he joined a vessel called the Cape Ham, belonging to Lyles of Glasgow. Again, steamer, and this was in the south-west Tuscany dock. A year later, having served a full year on that ship, he joined the Cape Corso, which was also an ancient steamer built in 1943, built in Vancouver. He obtained his second mate certificate on the 2nd of November 1953 in London, and then went up market. Became something of class. It fell down later on in his career, but this time he joined E&O. The name of great renown, he was now, as it was in those days. He was appointed as fourth mate to the Carmala. Later on, he was promoted as third mate to the Iberia. On September the 5th, 1956, he joined the Shillong as third mate. Now, if you remember, the Shillong was one of the beautiful P&O S-class. The Sumatra was another one that saw out. And they were built like yachts. They were flush deck. They didn't have cultural and second class and anything like that. Most beautiful to watch. But sadly, the Shillong sank. She had a collision in the Red Sea near the diver's light with a tanker. And sank. She was lost. There were horses on the deck, which was a very sad situation. But fortunately, Terry was not responsible on this occasion. Because he in fact had left on the previous voyage. Anyway, he got his first mate certificate in London, and he joined the China Navigation Company. He joined the Changsha, and then in November '57, he joined the Suchow in Sydney. Now here is another Conradian story. Not so much for the problems, but for the places he visited. This ship was trading between the east coast of Australia and to New Guinea, Papua, Solomons, New Britain, New Ireland, and Conradian adventure. If ever there was one, Terry called it paradise, but I'm sure it was. We would all have loved to have been on that kind of voyage. However, all good things come to an end, and it's amazing how these stories mirror one's own story. I was running out to the Far East for a while and had to come back to UK for my master's certificate, and so did Terry. In October 1960, he returned to the UK on the Southern Cross to take his master's certificate, which he obtained in March 1961 in Warsash. Then his career took a shift, but an interesting shift again, like many others. He became manager for small craft of Southampton, who were dinghy makers. He's actually Storm's manager. Now there's a chap. And having pushed that one along a little bit, he then became, in the same year, August 1961, an insurance salesman for Confederation Life.
Oh, no.
It was you!
It gets worse.
However, Terry had a problem. The same problem that we all had in this situation. Already the salt water was in the blood. It wasn't going to work. So he returned to sea. He joined the Cumberland, PSNC now.
Yeah, NZ. Federal.
And later the Hauraki, that sounds like PSNC.
Yeah, no, New Zealand.
Oh, again. Well, the two New Zealand ships. He joined them as third mate, and then came another career change. He moved off to the Dark Continent as a marine officer in Lagos, Nigeria. And there, at last, Terry found his true calling. He became a Lagos pilot. It took a long time, but he got there. He returned to the UK 3 years later and commenced tripping as a Singapore pilot. He was licensed on the 24th of April 1967, became a Medway pilot in the Big Bang of 1988. He retires on the 11th of the 7th of 97. That you will realise is 2 or 3 weeks hence. And what I said, we are not really, it is not because of the indecent hate, because I understand that Terry and Katja are moving very shortly after retirement to Scotland. So we decided to fit them in just before they went. Let's tell you one story about Chatham. He joined the ship one time there, and the master was talking about his entry into Chatham. The vessel was hurtling at quite alarming speed towards this very solid stone wall in front of them, with disaster absolutely imminent, and looking for the pilot. He was on the wing of the bridge with his video recorder. that could only be one man. Terry, congratulations and welcome to a new era in your life. He's just getting instructions. We are presenting to Terry the silver plate in memory of his days as a simple pilot and also as a Medway pilot. Terry, congratulations. Every good luck in the future.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Is he taking me or right, well that concludes that little set of it.
Excuse me, yes, there is no who is going to say. Look, where are you?
Excuse me.
Look, please.
Thank you.
Who is going to say the words?
Congratulations also for
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful time as well.
Oh, I shall. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Trevor and John and everybody else. And I did enjoy doing the wife of a pilot. President Fisher is now the medical mother, but I'm looking forward to our wonderful life. Now, please come and visit us. Thank you very much. And we are
Ladies and gentlemen, Lou Mann, former simple pilot, one of Terry's earlier colleagues, and all our colleagues in the sense is going to Lou.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel very honoured to be standing here, partly because I am not a Medway pilot, and indeed I am a stranger in your midst. And possibly some of you may feel that the honour of speaking to Terry and about Terry should have gone to somebody else. I do hope that what I will say will be in accord with your thoughts, because I would like just to say a few words about Terry. In a situation like this, the most essential and important thing is to try and find something nice and complimentary to say about Terry. This, in actual fact, was made very easy for me by Kasha. The brown envelope, thank you Kasha, arrived yesterday. Exactly how I'm going to get to Gdynia to redeem those vouchers for half-price dry cleaning, I don't know, but that is my problem. Now Terry, this is your climax. It has been long awaited, and with its coming, it has brought somebody very close to you a sense of great joy and happiness, a sense of great satisfaction mixed with tranquility, achievement and satisfaction. And I do not talk about Kasha, I talk about the management. The management must be so relieved to see this day dawn. And talking of management, I'm reminded of a radio program that I heard the other day where one of these managers of British industry, full of pomposity, he'd obviously got a university degree, had 6 months experience in work and had listened to 2 lectures by Mrs. Thatcher, and he said, what we require nowadays is conformists. We do not require characters. And certainly if that is true, he had never met pilots, he certainly never met Terry. Because quite truthfully, it does require a certain degree of character to conform to the very rigorous standards that all pilots impose upon themselves. It does require a certain character to get up in the mornings at any hour, to go to work at any stage in life, in any weather, in any sort of conditions, and it does require a certain character to instill confidence instantly into a complete stranger whom you've never ever met in your life. Terry, I've always thought that you've had that character to conform to those standards to a very high degree, and in actual fact, I do stand in admiration of your abilities. No, you see, you're laughing, but I do, Terry. I do. I think that it's quite wonderful. If I could just remind myself of what I was going to say, I was going to say that besides your superb reputation as a pilot, you also were one of these people who was never backward in coming forward and voicing your opinion about things. You never lacked the courage to go forward and progress your point of view. And indeed there were times when your enthusiasm and the pride that you had in your job actually overwhelmed your sense of diplomacy. But we all realised that it was your great pride in your job that caused you to do so. In fact, all of us stand in admiration of the many times that you fearlessly exposed yourself to the ladies in the office. Sorry. Many times that you expressed yourself. To the ladies in the office, this must have seemed quite inordinate, but we all realised the tremendous pride you had in your work. Now, Terry, if I can be serious for a moment. I didn't come all the way from the wilds of Margate to be laughed at. If I could be serious just for a moment, Terry, what I would like to say to you is serious, if I can only find the page. Because I do tend to... Here we are. What I wanted to say to you, Terry, that you are now at the end of your sea career and your pilotage career. Quite honestly, Terry, you can look back over your career with tremendous pride. I say to you in all seriousness that you were one of these pilots who never shirked the duty. You took what came to you without complaint. You did your job in a manner which I and all your colleagues admire. You were a great friend, a great character, and I think you should be proud of what you achieved as a pilot. Myself, Brenda, and all your colleagues wish you well for your retirement. We wish you well for your new venture, and I as one am proud to shake your hand and say thank you for being a friend, thank you for being a colleague.
Lee? Well, there we are. Thank you very much, Lou. Thank you very much, Stan. And firstly, I'm so overwhelmed, I really must read this. Thank you very much indeed for this most magnificent silver dish. Cash and I will treasure it always and be a constant reminder of my almost 9 years on the Medway, which I have to say I have enjoyed immensely. I am most thankful that I was given the opportunity to be a Medway pilot in October '88, and I hope you all are as pleased as I was when Derek Stoyles phoned and asked me to come and join up. It's been a great place to work, this river, with all its varieties of ships and berths, and my co-workers. I'm sorry that I didn't get to know some of the older Medway pilots as well as I would have liked. So many retired just after the great changeover, but for the others, it's been a real pleasure. Flogging round from Folkestone in a 10-knot scoop was never like this. This is the joy of when Derek Stoyles phoned me and said, would you like to be a Medway pilot? And I said, is that Rochester Bridge to Medway, boy? And he said, yes. And I said, well, that's fine for me. I was 57 at the time, and I thought, that'll just see me off. And then, of course, they went and built Thamesport, so that, but still wasn't so bad. I hope that all the working pilots here will be able to enjoy such a wonderful send-off as I'm having, and that they too will have an opportunity to thank all the people that have made it possible for me to arrive at this point in my career. I have to say, it's a tremendous coincidence that Simpson was with Hogarth because I was with Lyles. When my father decided to throw me out of the house, he was determined to get me to go straight to sea instead of going to pre-sea training school. And he had a connection with Cunard. And he wrote to them, and the Marine Superintendent said, no, they didn't take cadets straight from school. He would pass my papers along, and they went to Donaldson's in Glasgow. And the superintendent there said, no, we don't take lads straight from school, but I'll pass your papers around other friendly companies in Glasgow. And they went to Lyles first, and not to Hogarth, because that was the next one on the list. And I escaped Hogarth by that. But yeah, my first ship was a 1943 built steamer. And if I had gone to sea in the year that Simpson did, I also would have been shoveling coal, because the cadets on my first ship at Cape Howe, they said how lucky I was that just been converted to oil, and the previous voyage they'd been down in the trimming hatches shoveling coal. So yes, it was amazing that you were in Hogarth and I was in Lyles. Now, first of all, and in particular to my colleagues of the Medway Pilots Association, who have made it possible for us to be together like this, and for the excellent arrangements that they have made following upon that wise and courageous decision by my employer to accept my resignation. My special thanks go to John Girton and Trevor Lee and Stan and all the other members of the committee. Secondly, I want to give special thanks to Catherine for supporting me so well, and in particular for making it possible for me to be able to go straight home from either Ramsgate or Sheerness, because she drove me to the other end of the district. It was following upon an occasion I was driving back from Sheerness and I fell asleep at the wheel. I found myself crossing the road at Tenham. When I told Kasia about it, she said, never again, I would always drive you to work. And no matter what time of night or day it was, she did. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. I remember, it might even have been Peter actually, Peter Russell, that one day when I was going up to Gravesend, and I called up Duty Pilot, well, the Gravesend radio, and I said, oh, please phone my wife and tell her I'll be at Gravesend at 2 o'clock. And Peter's voice came on the air and he said, don't spoil it for the rest of us, he said. Yes, well, talking of falling asleep at the wheel, of course there was this most memorable incident, which I believe involved Don Davis, where a Singapore pilot was driving a Medway pilot's car at Tenham. He fell asleep at the wheel, he struck a lamppost, the car veered across the road and ended up in a cornfield at Tenham. When it called out the AA, because the car couldn't be driven, when it called out the AA, the guy arrives on the road and said, where's the car? And here's this Singapore's pilot standing at the side of the road, and he said, it's there in the field, and they couldn't see it. But, so, having, that's just one little story. Now, as Henry put it so well in his retirement speech, we are dependent on our wives so that we can enjoy pilotage. We pay them ludicrously low housekeeping allowances. They're unable to afford any small luxuries, such as normal people do. And they drag us out of pubs, out of our beds, and other places I won't mention, when we're on call. And they even have to listen to the pleadings of duty pilots looking for volunteers and other unmentionable practices. Please raise your glasses to the wives, and mine in particular. Now, I'm not going to go on for very much longer. Now, thirdly, I want to give special thanks to all the people who support us in our work, and who on occasions have to take a lot of flack from us. Launch crews, tug skippers and their crews, and the boatmen, and not least our office staff. Where would we be if it wasn't for Marion and her diary, Ron and his helpful advice regarding towage, and the launch coxswains who drive us so rapidly in the head seas? I leave the thought to your imagination. But seriously, folks, we do need their support, and I am most grateful for all that's been done to help and not hinder. It might be that the PLA will get the shipping sand tide gauge going one day, and so we'll be able to assist our colleagues to get through that girdler patch instead of leaving them floundering through the pages of their tide tables and getting it all wrong. It's the mathematics that's so difficult. You know, having to add the height of the tide to the depth of the channel, 5.7 plus 2.8 is 9.5, isn't it? My thanks also to my colleagues for being such a great bunch to work with, for their friendships I've made, and I mean that most sincerely, and for being so forgiving when I've been duty pilot. A task which I have not found easy to do, as many of you will doubtless remember. I sent Ben Newman to the Baltic Press once, the day before she was due to sail. I hang my head in shame. Now, believe it or not, I generally try to take a light-hearted approach to pilotage, and by the way, that story about that vessel going to Chatham isn't true. And now, wait a minute. I generally try to take a light-hearted approach to pilotage, though on occasions, and especially with the Dutch, I am prevented from doing so. And as a consequence, I have been trying to remember those times when I've been amused by what's been going on around me, and by some of the strange wording you see on notices on these multinational crewed vessels, like, when lift make emergency stop, use telephone. If no phone, leave by emergency exit in proof. But there's no ladder. Or the Japanese toilets, you see these graphic illustrations about how to use a Western-style pan. Or the best example of all, and excuse me ladies, I'm going to be a little bit rude, or the best example of all, before peeing, please point penis. I told the captain if he'd used the word prior instead of before, it would have been perfect alliteration. But he didn't really understand me. And do you remember the storer with the little brass box on the window? And it said on it, for captain's use only. And all the new pilots that came here when they were tripping, you'd see them surreptitiously slide low, lift up the lid, and inside there were two arrows. And one pointed this way and said, right, and this one pointed that way and said, left. And of course it also said on it, for captain's use only. There have been some wonderful VHF messages to listen to. Too many to recite here, really, except one, and that of very recent times. Where is he? Duty Officer PLA. Vessel calling, port control. Repeat your message. Reply from Medway pilot. It's too late. The incident is over. From PLA. Well, we are busy here, you know. We do have telephones to answer. And so on. You must all know lots and lots of wonderful messages. I've often asked if I shall miss pilotage, having been one for 34 years. And I hope that I will not. To invite that 3 o'clock phone call to ring, not likely. But I will miss my colleagues and my fellow river users, and I shall remember you all, especially the characters amongst you. And thank God that there are characters, because it would be an awful job if everybody was sort of bland and ordinary and there was nobody to talk about, no little bit of gossip perhaps. There will be nights when those Scottish wind is blowing, we're snowed in, the roads are blocked, and we're down to the last drop of mother's milk. I shall think of those days that might have been. Hopefully Cash and I will see some of you when we come south, and even more of you enjoying our beds and breakfasts. On a slightly more serious note, I wish all of you as long a career as I've had, if you so wish it, that you never have to write any ghastly reports, that you never go aground, and that the North Edinburgh Channel deepens to 15 metres. Once again, thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That ends the formal part of today's ceremony. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Oh, yes.
The what?
Scottish joke.
Scottish joke. This was actually a football joke. A Scottish footballer used to play for St Mirren. He was pretty good. He died and went to heaven and was having his interview to see whether he was squeaky clean in order to enter, you see, and he was asked, do you have anything to confess, you know? Oh, so far so good. He said, well, yes, I do. I do really have a confession to make. He said, on the match between St Mirren and Rangers for the Scottish Cup, when I scored that second goal that won the cup for St Mirren, I was really offside, and I should have admitted it. I should have owned up to it, but I didn't, and that's been on my conscience. So the chap interviewed him said, oh, that's all right, we knew about that back in the day. Actually, we discounted it, it doesn't really matter. Oh, thank you, St. Peter, he said, that's wonderful. I've had such a lot of worry about it. He said, yeah, it's okay, no problem, but I'm not St. Peter. He said, you know, who are you? He said, I'm St. Mirren.